Yo, yo, it's Life is Hope Podcast. I'm your man, Graffiti.
And I'm Davey.
How you feeling, brother?
I feel great.
Hey, man, I'm excited about this episode right here.
Man, we've been getting a lot of requests for this one.
Check it out, man. So this is a topic that I've been passionate about for a long time. Mm-hmm. And recently, a lot of people have been hitting me up like, man, please let me know about what this Bitcoin thing is. What is cryptocurrency? Yep. I'll take you to lunch. Everybody's like, I'll take you to lunch if you can just tell me what it is.
And everyone's been thinking that they're the experts on it now.
Yeah, I'm like, for one, just do your Googles. I don't need your lunch, but cool. Learn it the way I learned it. But everybody thinks they're experts, so we had to go get an expert ourselves and really put them on game. So we got my man Justin Go from Snap Ledger in the building. Let's make some noise for Justin.
Hey. Appreciate you guys having me on.
How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, good. So for the people that don't know, let them know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Go. Founded a company called Snap Ledger probably about 6 months ago.
Good.
Yeah. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. About 6 months ago with a couple partners from a venture capital firm out in Brazil. It was kind of a whirlwind how this turned out. I started blogging and writing articles about cryptocurrency probably about last year, and started gaining a pretty big following, mostly on LinkedIn, because I don't use any sort of social media outside of LinkedIn.
Wow.
But after posting a ton of articles and started getting interest, a couple of partners came up to me wanting to start a consulting firm, really getting the word out there on not only cryptocurrency, but the underlying technology behind it.
Right.
Because there are a lot of applications for blockchain outside of currency. But, we understand that currency is right now the frontier in terms of democratizing wealth. So that's primarily what our focus has been.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And so for this episode, I'm just give you a heads up.
Sure.
We're going to do like the Crypto for Dummies episode. Because like a lot of people are like, well, even when I ask and people tell me what it is, it still feels like I don't understand. So we want to like, from square one, let's start with the blockchain.
Okay.
What is the blockchain?
So, this is a good exercise for me too, because when you get into the technicalities of cryptocurrency and blockchain and things like that, it's really easy to get into that sort of talk. And sometimes when I'm trying to explain it to family members and friends, you kind of have to get creative in how you word things, and it can get very challenging, and I'm sure you had that challenge too.
Right.
But blockchain is essentially the technology that underlies Bitcoin. It's what allows Bitcoin to happen. It's a network of users on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, that basically in a way, they utilize their computer space to handle these transactions for Bitcoin, and in that process, they get paid Bitcoin as well. So now what happens is if you take a look at a company like Facebook, right? They have all of your guys' information stored in a central server.
They do.
Right?
Right.
And any other company like that, like Equifax. The problem with that is that it's very easy to hack because all of the information is stored in one place.
Right.
So if you take a look at a bank vault, right, and I'm a very crafty, safe cracker.
Right. Oh, shit.
All I have to do is get into the bank vault and all the money's there. It's in one place.
Right.
Now visualize a bank vault where if I'm a very crafty hacker or a safe cracker and I break in, imagine that every single dollar in that bank vault is locked away in a separate, different door. There's no possible way that I'd have enough time to hack that, and that's essentially what the blockchain is. It's decentralized. So the misconception about Bitcoin is it's not a company.
Right.
It's a currency that is owned by no one, it's managed by no one, and the blockchain is the technology that allows it to happen. It's an open source code. Anybody here can be a miner. They just have to buy a powerful enough computer to help their end of the bargain to handle these transactions, and then they get paid in Bitcoin also. So that is what's appealing in terms of being a miner. So now when you look at blockchain, essentially what it is, it's a ledger that stores records, and it stores it in a place that's not centralized.
Right.
So you take a look at what else can that be, applied to. It could be applied to anything where you need to hold information in a secure place. And that's really where we're at right now. We're really exploring those uses because the blockchain right now, I'll tell you guys, is where the internet was in 1989. You know what I mean? There's so many uses outside of just the currency function.
Right.
But we're still exploring what those are, and we're finding out what those are on a daily basis. And that's why this whole industry is kind of blowing up. And it's pretty exciting. So, I really appreciate the chance to come up here and talk with you guys.
Oh, definitely. It's much needed.
So could blockchain possibly be the future of storing information?
Yes, 100%. The blockchain can actually, in many ways, be the Internet 2.0. You know, it can be used for a lot of things. There are actually musical artists right now that are putting their music up on a blockchain, specifically the Ethereum network, and they're able to sell their music directly to consumers in Ethereum without having to pay someone like Apple, without having to pay someone like Google. Because when you're an artist and you put up your music, why is a big chunk of the fee that you charge going to them when all they're really doing is facilitating it?
Right.
You know, so this kind of democratizes it in the way where musicians are able to get their music digitally directly to the people that want to listen to it, and they collect 100% of the fee.
And you did mention about putting it on Ethereum. Isn't Ethereum also a cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so Ethereum is a blockchain protocol that's open source. So unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum says here, you can build an app on top of our blockchain and have access to all of our miners and our users.
Oh, wow.
Their currency is technically called Ether, but people know it as Ethereum. So they're one and the same. But if you're utilizing, the Ethereum blockchain, most likely you'll be using Ether as a form of payment or some derivative of that. So,
okay, let's go back to you're talking about mining.
Yep.
So, if I want to be a miner, what is that? How do I get into that?
Why
would
I want
to do that?
So, back in the day, and I say back in the day as if it's been a long time, it's really not too far off, where when Bitcoin first started, there weren't too many people actually utilizing the Bitcoin network, as you can imagine. It's something that's new. So back then, all you would need to do is have a computer, download some sort of crypto wallet, download your mining protocol, and then you basically just lend your computer to the network. You don't actually have to do anything. So your computer, what it does is, let's say that you want to sell something to you, right? And then you guys swap cryptocurrency. Everybody on the blockchain network is competing to solve that problem, because although Bitcoin is completely public, the information is encrypted. So although I can see that a Bitcoin is being spent, I don't know who person A is and who person B is.
Right.
So if my computer is the first one to solve that problem, all the other miners now have to confirm that that is correct. And if there's a consensus of 50% or more, that transaction is locked, it's confirmed, and then the person who mined that Bitcoin gets a percentage of Bitcoin. So then they harvest it. So that's one of the ways you can earn Bitcoin. You can either mine it, you can either buy it on an exchange like Coinbase, which is blowing up now, or you can actually transfer it for hard cash at a Bitcoin ATM. And I know there's probably about 5 or 6 in Denver right now, where you can actually just go put in your money and then convert it to the cryptocurrency you want. So mining is a form of kind of making Bitcoin. It's kind of like an income rather than something that you just buy.
Right.
Yep.
And then how many Bitcoins are there total? Isn't it like 21 million or something?
Yeah, there's 21 million total in existence. And the reason why that's so important is because it creates an artificial scarcity, right? So they're calling Bitcoin Gold 2.0. The reason why they're calling that is because you can't create more Bitcoin.
Right.
It's hard written into the code. So now if you have something like gold, what is gold? It's a piece of metal that us as a human race decided to put a value on it.
Right.
Just because it's pretty, because it has some applications, jewelry, it has some function. But it's so expensive, right? Because of its rarity. Bitcoin replicates that with its code. You pointed it out, 21 million total.
Yeah.
And the more people buy into Bitcoin, the more miners get involved in the blockchain network, the price goes up because there will never be any more Bitcoin.
Right.
Now that's good and bad, because Bitcoin was originally used as a form of currency, right? But now it's transitioning into a form of wealth. Yeah, I'm sorry, not a form of wealth.
Like an asset.
Yeah, like an asset, like a storage of wealth, right? I don't want to use any Bitcoin for good reason. You hear horror stories of people who bought a Papa John's pizza for $17,000 or whatever number that was in Bitcoin. And then you look at it today and you're like, great, that's an $80 million pizza you just spent, and people hate themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's transitioning more to a storage of wealth. And I think that's what Bitcoin's primary function will be moving forward.
So that's interesting, because once that it'll be a while, but once that 21 million is gone, is that where the altcoins and these other sources start to kick in? Because I mean,
well, I guess
essentially Bitcoin is no more.
So the 21 million, it's pretty much already gone, but everyone now is just buying a piece of it, right? Unless
Well, yes and no. So when you're a miner, there's an algorithmic code, and I could spend hours talking about it. But new Bitcoins have yet to be mined. There's a limit of 21 million, which we haven't reached yet. They're saying it could take about 100 years, maybe even less at this rate, at the speed we're going.
Right.
But at that point, once all the Bitcoins have been mined, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of Bitcoin. It'll just be a little bit more centralized, like a bank, in the sense that they will start charging fees and paying the miners, a commission for handling these transactions.
Right.
Right now, they're incentivized to earn Bitcoin, but in the future, once there are no more Bitcoin, that's probably the model that they're
Right.
going to have to shift to. Of course, no one knows for sure what that's going to look like.
It's interesting.
By then, is there something new that's going to replace it? Who knows? Is this where the other altcoins come into effect? We don't know.
Right.
So that's why, one of the things that I wanted to bring up on the show is I wanted to bring awareness that people should tread lightly when investing in cryptocurrencies. Because just about 2 years ago, when I would talk to people about cryptocurrency and the blockchain, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, that's just whatever. It's magic money, made up money.
Right.
And I'm sure you can attest to this. We're getting blown up about Bitcoin, about cryptocurrencies. How do I buy it? What do I do? And you see a lot of people making a lot of illegitimate, or I guess reckless, sacrifices to buy Bitcoin,
Right.
not necessarily understanding the technology behind it and the risks.
Yeah.
If one thing I could share here is to invest wisely. Only invest what you can afford to lose. Whenever I buy a cryptocurrency, I already assume that I've lost that money.
Yeah.
Because it could all be nothing. And just like any investment, just like any form of,
It's all a
precious
gamble.
stone. Right.
Right.
It's only worth what the next person is willing to pay for it.
Right.
So, that's what I would like to stress, is to be very careful and also treat it as if you've already lost it. Therefore, you can afford it.
Right.
Right.
So when people have these fears about it crashing and just it all going away, where does that stem from? Could Bitcoin crash essentially? And what would it take?
Bitcoin could crash theoretically, but we would have bigger problems than that if Bitcoin was to crash. Because if you take a look at Bitcoin, it is on a network of thousands and thousands of users, right? So if an outage of that scale happens, we've got bigger problems than Bitcoin just
Right.
to worry about. Because if a portion of miners go offline for a while, there are enough people with the same exact record of the blockchain protocol, the Bitcoin blockchain, that they can reconcile lost records, because everything has been recorded since the beginning, since the Genesis block,
Right.
the first block of Bitcoin. But yeah, I would say it would be catastrophic, obviously, but it would take a lot. It would take a lot.
So would it just take an outage of like a blockchain outage, or is there something else that could cause it to crash? Like,
One of the main things people always say is it's going to get hacked and you're going to lose all your money. And that's kind of the scare that the media likes to push too.
Sure. Well, I think that honestly, between us, I think that scare is healthy, because you want people to be responsible with owning cryptocurrency. Now, the blockchain itself is the transmission of the currency, right? The blockchain itself is very, very secure, because there's very little you can do to actually alter it, because every block prior to the current block has a record of what happened with that particular coin.
Right.
What you have to worry about are the exchanges and the wallets, because those are not secure. Like if you look at Coinbase structurally, it's no different from a company like Equifax or Facebook. They have a centralized location of your information. And you hear articles about people losing their Bitcoins. And then the first thing, my dad's especially like this, he'll call me up and he's like, I just read an article that people lost their Bitcoins from the exchange.
Right.
I thought the blockchain couldn't, I thought it was impossible with blockchain technology. Well, if people leave their wallets on an exchange and they have money sitting there on an exchange, the exchange can get hacked.
yeah,
Right.
So the important thing for people who own cryptocurrency is to have a hard wallet, like something like Trezor, where they could plug into their computer, transfer their cryptocurrency, and then unplug it and keep it offline. Because if that exchange gets hacked, your cryptocurrency is safe.
Right.
But that's the problem with people rushing to things like this. You know, they can easily buy Bitcoin by downloading an app on their phone, uploading their bank information, and then it's fun. You see your money going up with the price of Bitcoin, and they just leave it there.
Right.
That's not how it was intended to be used. You know, so the thing is you want to take them off the exchange, store them offline. That's the safest way you can protect yourself, because it still can be hacked.
Right.
The transaction itself is very hard, but it's just like, you know, it's just like pulling money from an ATM. You don't leave it there.
Yeah.
You know, you put it in your wallet.
And with your company Snap Ledger, you can actually give people step-by-step instructions on how to transfer from that exchange into a more secure.
Yeah, I mean, we're always willing to give advice, but Snap Ledger is more of business to business.
Okay.
You know, helping them explore the blockchain, helping them find out its future uses, helping them realize, is it something that we actually need? Because blockchain right now is that hot button issue. It's that sexy word that people want to associate their company with.
Right.
When in reality, they don't even really need it. They just want it there to gain attention. Like, oh, we are a blockchain company. And you know, in many cases, it's really not necessary.
Right.
You know, so just like anyone else, they're trying to make money off of the trend. It's the .com, you know, of the early 2000s.
So to go back to the investment part of it, one of the main questions I get is, so do I need $17,000 to buy a Bitcoin, or how do I start investing? Like, how do I even begin with investing in Bitcoin?
Yeah. So with a lot of worry, I have a lot of optimism when it comes into investing into Bitcoin, because it's teaching a lot of people that that I personally know that had no interest in investing into securities, but they're learning the basics of investing by buying Bitcoin. The thing about Bitcoin is that's different from stocks is you can buy a portion of Bitcoin,
Right.
an infinitely divisible amount. I can buy $3, $10 worth of Bitcoin,
Right.
so I don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. Now, if you buy a portion of Bitcoin, as Bitcoin's price inflates, yours will inflate accordingly and to scale, right? But the reason why it's important and it's very positive, I think, one of the positive things about investing into cryptocurrency is that when I look at a company like Apple that's very secure, you know, very established, and it's usually touted as a very safe investment, it pushes a lot of people off because you have to buy a whole share.
Right.
You know, and that's what cryptocurrencies kind of do for everyday investors that I think is great, because not only does it teach them the game, but they also don't have to invest a whole lot into it to understand how it works. On the flip side of that is, like I pointed out earlier, I hear a lot of concerning things about people wanting to mortgage their house, sell their car, just so they can purchase Bitcoin, let it ride, flip it for a quick profit.
Right.
And that's very risky, because a lot of these people are buying into Bitcoin not necessarily understanding its future uses, what it's for. They just know that it's a money machine right now, which is true.
Right.
But when something goes wrong, they're the first people out too. You know, so this perpetuates a potential crash that makes me nervous. You know, I've been focusing more on the underlying technology, whereas a lot of people are caught up in the actual currency function. And I think that they should do a lot more research before buying into cryptocurrencies.
Definitely.
So would there be a way to invest into blockchain? Is that possible?
At this point, blockchain is just a technology. It's like saying, can I invest in the internet? You know, you can invest in certain different companies that are utilizing blockchain, but blockchain is just a technology. So yeah, you can't really.
How high do we think that Bitcoin is going to get before it stabilizes? Or because I've heard everything from 60,000 to
I think it's impossible to gauge.
Yeah, it is impossible to gauge, and you know, there's a lot of mathematics behind it, and a lot of different ways you can chop up the numbers. To your point, you know, I've heard 60,000 by the end of 2018. I've heard 500,000. Very reputable people, you know, in Silicon Valley are predicting about $500,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin, like John McAfee. But it's impossible to tell, because Bitcoin is ultimately only worth what people are willing to pay for it. You know, so if you have a lot of people who are willing to be in it for the long game, then the sky's the limit. But if Bitcoin turns out to not be the most effective storage of wealth, if there's another company that comes along or another form of currency that comes along that surpasses Bitcoin, Bitcoin could be worth nothing.
Right.
You know, so it is kind of a gamble because, I mean, who would have thought now that MySpace would be MySpace?
Right.
And Facebook would come along. If you take a look at MySpace, I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
and there's a lot more you can do with MySpace in terms of customization. I remember some people having their pages with this background, different music, different mouse cursors, right?
Right.
But
You could find people like within like different zip codes and request them as friends. You had like your top 8.
Right. And now you look at that like, damn, that was that. You know, that was that. And now we got Facebook and things way beyond that.
Right.
I think that's a good thing when it comes to the crypto world, though, because no matter what, it just shows that we're moving into a new era.
Yes.
Of not only currency, but just new rules in general.
Right. What I like about cryptocurrency and what I find that is promising is that it takes the power away from the centralized banks, right? And it kind of redistributes the wealth amongst the everyday people, amongst us, right? Because if you take a look at, I could Skype with someone from China, right, or Australia, for free,
Right.
and think about that technology, very advanced. How much information is being sent live? The amount of technology in this room alone is miraculous if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that there's so much free technology out there, yet when I want to transfer money, which is just an electronic number on a ledger, to say a family member in Australia, why does it cost so much money?
Right.
You know, because that's how these banks survive. They survive off of the transfer fees. They survive off of our overdraft fees. They survive off of any sort of other fee, and they need to maintain relevance. Well, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has proven that you can do all that for very cheap and very fast. And that worries them. You know, so that's what I think is very promising because it allows us to kind of take back a little bit more of that power. Because we really don't have any say right now with these banks.
It's true.
That's true. As far as politics, and
fuck those guys.
as far as politics and government, is there anything that they could do, I guess, regulatory wise involving Bitcoin? I mean, I guess what kind of power, what kind of reach do they have?
You know, it's going to be interesting how it plays out because right now nothing is set in stone. We're kind of living history as it goes. Because as Bitcoin rises in value, that means that people are taking their dollars and converting it into Bitcoin.
Right.
Whatever reason they do that for is up to them. But if Bitcoin rises in value, other world currencies will begin to devalue. You see? So there's going to be a point in the future where we're going to have to decide what's it going to be. You know, is it more efficient for me to turn my money into Bitcoin because it's stable and the dollar now costs me $1,000 to buy a cup of coffee?
Right.
We don't know what that looks like, right? So in terms of regulation, what they're trying to do now is if you're a Bitcoin miner, the Bitcoin you earn is taxed as income.
Right.
Because you're basically working for your Bitcoin.
Right.
Whereas if you are, buying Bitcoin and you're holding Bitcoin, it's being taxed as an asset. But all of that is really hard to regulate, and we're going to see how all those things play out. But that's where they're at right now.
How do you think net neutrality will play into all of this?
Ooh, that
I like when y'all say "ooh." That was a real one.
Net neutrality being repealed by Ajit Pai is another topic I don't want to get into because I have strong feelings about that. I think it's despicable, but also it could threaten cryptocurrency just because if these individual service providers,
because essentially we need the internet to be able to use it, right?
And if they, the thing about net neutrality is if they can pick and choose what service to provide and what to charge for it, that's very dangerous because now you're getting into the range of censorship.
Yeah.
And I just got back from a business trip in Shanghai, and you see a lot of censorship there.
Wow.
Google is illegal, Facebook is illegal, right? And the things that you can search, are they've been scrubbed ahead of time. You know, so that gets very dangerous because then you can control what people think
Right.
and what people learn.
And that's my theory behind this whole thing is they kind of want to put a muzzle on us because
It's control.
now the internet is to a point where the internet is essentially all you need information wise, and so the wealth of knowledge that we just have at our fingertips is scary to the government because then you get like the cryptocurrencies and it's like, oh well, damn, now they have their own network of
Right.
of money and they have their own network of voices and entertainment. We could essentially overthrow the government. You know what I mean? If it would not overthrow, but we can create our own underground network essentially with these things. But they have the control to shut that shit down with this net neutrality.
And essentially, like, the internet has affected everything from music to entertainment.
Yeah.
To, like, people don't really need it's affected commerce. We don't really need
It's
brick
all
and
peer to peer
mortar
now.
businesses anymore. We don't
Yeah.
need record labels. We don't.
So we're not going to need banks. We're not going to need none of that.
And how many backdoor deals are being made on a high level where, you know, a competitor says, I don't want any of their stuff showing up and I'll pay you this much. Or
Yeah.
at least push it lower on the search field, right?
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's scary is if we Google something, we actually don't know what we don't know. Are we seeing everything we
Right.
should be?
Exactly.
And,
That's the scary part.
and that's what repealing net neutrality essentially means. Now moving forward, we won't know if we're getting the same level picture because if you were with one provider and I'm with another one and we Google the same identical things, unless we're right next to each other, we won't know if we're seeing something differently. And that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is true because we've seen that already with the way that different browsers work. If you use Google to look up something versus Bing or versus
Right.
Yahoo, I mean, it may pull up different searches or pull up searches or results in a separate order.
Sure. Companies can pay Google more money for their result to show up higher on their list.
And then you factor in like news and education and entertainment and all that. With that, it's definitely a source of control
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What else we got for the Bitcoin world, man? I'm trying to think of some of the other questions.
Well, how'd you get into it, man?
Interesting. So years ago, I'm just a geek like that. So I was just I don't know what I was doing, but I stumbled upon, I think it was through video games actually. People were like exchanging currency for like points or something like that, like how Xbox points
Sure.
work, pretty much.
Yep.
So the nerds kind of had their black market off the market of paying each other via, you know, digital money. I thought that was really interesting. So as I started to, you know, learn more about it and learn more about Bitcoin, I was like, yo, this is going to be the future. So I'm trying to tell everybody around me, like, listen, like, we're going to be converting to digital money in the future. Like, this is what, look, I just paid for this. He just paid me this. It's kind of shady because I got to go do some weird shit with the USB. I don't know how to get my money from it. But look, I got money in here.
Yep.
Like, I can see that I have money. And they're like, well, it's not real money. It's like video game money. I'm like, no, like, it's actual currency. Like, I would say, if you want this, and I say, okay, if you want this, you have to give me that. It's a transaction,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be money. It's still a transaction. I'm getting things I want for this imaginary money.
Right.
So I'm trying to tell everybody this, and they think I'm crazy. It's like, oh, we're not. You know, you're tripping. And just as the years go on, I just kept following it. I'm like, yo, like this shit's slowly going up. It goes back down. Now the media is talking about it. Now you got celebrities and people kind of like, hey, this Bitcoin thing might be real.
Yep.
And now it seems like now this year, it's just like boom, because Bitcoin went up so high. Now
Yeah.
everybody's an expert. Everybody's always invested in Bitcoin. And I'm like,
All of a sudden,
motherfuckers, like I've been telling you this. Unfortunately, when I did find out about it back then, I didn't have enough funds to really like invest the way I would like to have because I wouldn't even be sitting here right now. I'd be balling out of control. But now, since I know what I know, and then I see like the Litecoins and Ether and a few of these altcoins, I'm like, watch. A few years from now, we're all going to be pretty good if it keeps
Yeah.
at this pace. But that's for me. What do you feel about Litecoin and its sudden boom?
Litecoin, Litecoin is interesting because it's basically a fork of Bitcoin. And Charlie Lee, I think his name's Charlie Lee. He's a former Google developer.
Yeah.
You know, so he's been in the cryptocurrency for a while. And the thing about Litecoin that worries me a little bit is its value only because of the people who don't want to buy into Bitcoin because they think it's too high.
Right.
You know, because when Bitcoin hit, 6,000, 10,000, 16,000, you also saw the cost of, Ethereum and Litecoin just drive up.
Right.
And my worry is because the majority of new investors, if they're investing on on Coinbase, those are the only three currencies they see.
Exactly.
You know, so I don't know what's truly driving the price of Litecoin, and that's dangerous because is it all speculation? Is it just because it's the second best thing?
Right.
You know, is it really going to surpass Bitcoin, or is it really the silver to Bitcoin's gold?
Right.
You know, these are all the things that we just don't know yet. You know, so I'm always weary about people actually investing. And I hate giving advice because this is real money that people have worked their asses for.
Exactly.
You know, worked their asses off for, and then now they're going to transfer it into a currency that is untested.
Right.
You know, so that's why I want to put caution out there to people who are thinking about buying cryptocurrency. Really be careful and only invest what you can afford to lose.
Right.
To lose.
And lately we've been hearing about different people actually creating their own cryptocurrencies. How does that happen?
You know, that's a whole other thing. I'm going to go ahead out there and say that there's a good majority of altcoins out there and tokens that are just 100% scams.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to tap into a market where there are people that are eager to buy these currencies with no obligation to actually deliver on the projects that they're saying. You know, I want to build a new universal currency that'll be used for the music industry as a whole. Whenever you want to buy a song, you're going to use my coin.
Right.
You know, so they do an ICO, they sell an initial coin offering of these coins at a discounted price. Mm-hmm. Then when they make their hundreds, thousands, millions, their company dissolves and disappears. Mm-hmm. And they have no obligation, there's no regulation.
Yeah.
So that's why I mean, like, really be careful into, you know, what you're investing into, because there are a lot of coins out there. Some of them selling for fractions of cents. But even then, if you put $300, $3,000 into an altcoin that just dissolves, that's just money that went into someone else's pocket without any regulation.
Right.
So it's kind of the Wild West.
Yeah, now that I think about it, it's similar to like the Taste of Colorado. You go there, you have to pay real money.
Where you going with this?
and they give you like these paper like tickets.
Exactly.
You can buy food or whatever with it.
Right.
And then I guess essentially the more people, I guess if they have like a finite amount of
you
tickets,
really are hungry, huh?
I really am. I'm starving.
He's so hungry.
I'm thinking Chuck E. Cheese coins and stuff. He says Taste of Colorado.
Because that's the only thing I can think about. Because it's never like it's not like an equal amount. You don't pay like $20 and get 20 tickets. You'll pay like whatever it's worth at the time.
Yeah.
So essentially it's like that. It's like a finite amount of tickets. And then maybe the more people who go or try to buy tickets, that increases its value. But then essentially it's only good in that space. At the Taste of Colorado.
By golly, I think he's got it.
And then after Memorial Day weekend, they pack up and leave, and then you have all these leftover tickets that you can't
And
redeem.
it's worth nothing,
Yeah.
right? And that's exactly how it works, because now you're seeing a lot of coins that, although you can understand, okay, it still has the function of cryptocurrency, it still does have underlying blockchain technology. The niche is so the use is so niche that am I really going to use this one coin for this small particular niche use?
Right.
You know, if someone I'm trying to joke, but if someone came out with something called shitcoin and it allows me to utilize public bathrooms that they charge for, am I really going to? Is it really going to be useful? You know what I mean? So there are a lot of coins.
Somebody at home was like, "Bingo, found it."
Right. So you know, there's a lot of gimmicks out there. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of these uses, but you have to wonder: can Ethereum be used in this case? Can Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ripple or any of the other ones be used for? Because a lot of these other altcoins have significant backing and real teams, and they're really trying to change the game. And unfortunately, there are a lot of scam artists out there that take away from that.
Yeah.
And it gives cryptocurrencies a bad name. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because Bitcoin, the thing that is promising about Bitcoin is, can you think of any other company that can overcome a PR disaster like Silk Road?
Right.
And yet they still persevered and they pushed on. The bad rap on Bitcoin a few years ago is that it was only used for illicit purposes. People were buying drugs online.
Yeah.
And the first people to raise the flag on that are banks.
Right.
Okay, let's be real. If in today's terms I go to a bank and I want to withdraw $7,000 cash, or I want to go to an ATM and withdraw a good amount of cash, there's probably a chance where I'm going to use that to buy something that might be illegal because I want it off the records. Mm-hmm. Yet they don't care. Why is that? They don't care what the dollar is being used for, yet they're calling cryptocurrency out. And luckily, cryptocurrency has gotten past that, because now Bitcoin is not really the currency that is being used on the black market.
Right.
It's shifted to these altcoins, and that's what also has helped propel Bitcoin into its stratospheric price, because it's kind of overcome that.
That's a good segue into my next point, because I was going to say, I think Bitcoin for me feels a little more real, because now there's so many places accepting Bitcoin as actual payment.
Right.
Our producer Julius asked the other day on Facebook, or he said, he didn't ask shit, he was barking at everybody. He said, when y'all gonna make some life purchases with these imaginary monies? I ain't seen nobody buy a car or real estate yet.
Ooh.
However, there are more and more places accepting Bitcoin as actual
See
currency.
what happened was.
So, I mean, do you see that being something that's going to be more of a thing as far as just retail and brick and mortar places accepting Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Well, yes and no. The problem that I see with Bitcoin is that it has a spending problem. And what I mean by that is its original function of currency was for it to be circulated.
Right.
But who in their right mind wants to spend a Bitcoin right now?
Right.
Because the price can change from one day to another. I don't want to pay $80 million for a pizza.
Right.
But the thing is it's transitioned from a currency to more of that storage of wealth. Like I was saying, it is the new digital gold more so. So maybe there is going to be another altcoin that will be used for more day-to-day transactions, and that's what Litecoin promises.
I think that's what Litecoin. I think that's the silver lining for Litecoin. For me, I kind of see it being that, like, whereas Bitcoin is that luxury item. It's Bitcoin is your Neiman Marcus or whatever, and then you got like your Target with Litecoin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Bitcoin is something you buy to hold.
Yeah.
It's like an asset in the future, whereas Litecoin potentially can be the one that is used more I guess commonly amongst other companies.
So is it ever possible for there to be like a counterfeit Bitcoin or anything that could replicate it?
No, that's the beauty of the blockchain. It accounts for every single Bitcoin within its network, and the thousands of users that are on the blockchain network have a copy of the entire database. So to introduce a counterfeit Bitcoin, it would have had to come from somewhere. So if each block has 3 pieces of information. It has the details of the transaction, so it basically looks like a receipt, right? Mm-hmm. But the people involved in it are all encrypted. Their information, their name is a 26-digit number and letter, randomly generated serial number.
Wow.
Right? And then it has the block has its own encryption code on it, and then it has the encryption code of the block prior to it.
Right.
So it's impossible to introduce a new Bitcoin, because then it will have no cycle before it. Where did it come from? Who created it? There is no record of it prior, so then they just wipe it out immediately.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I think governments are going to warm up to it, because it does solve a lot of the problems that currency tried, right? They created the dollar because it was impractical to carry around gold bars. Mm-hmm. They wanted a measurement for it, and they wanted it easily to be transportable, easy to store.
Right.
But the number one issue that they've faced ever since the beginning was counterfeit. Mm-hmm. And that's what cryptocurrencies can kind of introduce.
That's interesting that you said that about not being able to carry a gold bar, because that's one of the things I try to explain to people that don't get the concept of digital money. Mm-hmm. We're kind of already, or we already have been introduced to it with like the Apple Pays and just getting used to paying for everything via your phone, like whether you're just paying Starbucks via the Starbucks app or something like that. So it's not too far away from that aspect of it.
No, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because the another key point with cryptocurrency is that when you use Apple Pay, or you use even your debit card to go to your local Starbucks, the moment you swipe your card, there's an exchange that happens. However, it's based on trust, right?
Right.
So you get your coffee, you swipe your card, but then the settlement doesn't end there. The credit card machine company that you're using, they have your card information. Mm-hmm. Then the company that transmits that over to the bank, so in any given transaction, 5 or 6 companies have record of that transaction
Right.
and all of your information. And that's why it's very dangerous, because are we trusting these companies that we don't even know we're doing business with to store our financial information? And are they as easily hacked as Equifax? Yes, they are.
It's a little more dangerous than
Right.
blockchain.
Whereas Bitcoin, I can transact with you live and completely anonymously. Because when you go to order something online, if you're not using, even if you're using PayPal, how much information do you have to put in just to buy a T-shirt on Amazon?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right. Now Amazon makes it easier because they store. I'm sorry. Amazon makes it easier because they store everything, and so does PayPal.
Right.
But if you're a first-time user, you have to put in your address, your name, your credit card number, the code on the back.
And then now you get on Facebook and all you seeing is Amazon ads for stuff that you just looked at.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So they are making money off of our information, and it's time that it comes back.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's say back in 2010, I buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, and now I'm like $70 million richer. What do I do with that money? How do I get it out of Bitcoin and back into my pocket? Or should I do that?
That's a decision you're going to have to make, because obviously you'd be very wealthy and then you're going to convert your money back into dollars, but what if there comes a time where the dollar is devalued?
Right.
What if Bitcoin becomes a standard, or what if Bitcoin gets valued at $1 million per Bitcoin?
Yeah, man.
It's
tough. I was sitting at home the other day like, man, I really want to cash these Bitcoins and go ball out for Christmas. But 10 years from now, everybody's going to be a billionaire. I'm like, damn it. Shouldn't have bought that Xbox One X.
and that's the blessing and the curse of Bitcoin, because do you want to spend it? But that's originally what it was built to do.
Right.
People's speculation and people's dreams have bought into Bitcoin and have made the price rise so high that it makes me a little nervous, because it's natural. Because whenever you look at a bubble, one of the things that drive it are speculation, promises of future uses, but more importantly, people buy into it because of fear of missing out.
Right.
And then, are you investing for the right reasons? Because the moment it dips a little bit and everybody's
Everybody's
out,
going to freak out. Yeah.
it could be the end.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting what's going to happen, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Definitely.
Could the price of items that accept Bitcoin, could that also affect the price of Bitcoin? Like, I guess, for example, because it took like 18,000 Bitcoins to order a pizza, 5 years ago, if it let's say that it takes 1 Bitcoin to order a pizza, or half a Bitcoin, or a quarter of one, could that also affect the price if they also say, okay, well, now it takes 2 to order a pizza?
Yeah.
How does that affect the market?
It's just going to have to go as the market goes, and that's really the gamble both the merchant and the buyer kind of assume, because right now these are very speculative times.
Right.
I think that there's going to be a point in time where the price levels off and we'll know exactly what it's going to be worth.
Okay.
But until then, they set the price and we choose to buy it or not.
Because I think right now what we see as the dollar, or how we value the dollar, is our ability to be able to purchase with it, or because if we can buy a candy for $1, then that's valuable. But now if candy is $1.25 or $1.50, that ends up devaluing the dollar. So I was curious if those same principles could eventually be applied to Bitcoin.
Yeah, we'll just have to see, because if you think about Bitcoin's inflation, it's basically on steroids. If you take a look at the prices, it is what it is. But if you also look at the dollar's inflation, those have also been meteoric, because I hear from my grandparents all the time what a bar of candy used to cost in the 50s and 60s, right?
Fill up my tank on 25 cents.
And you look, and if they were to time travel to today, it would be outrageous. But we as people choose to accept the price that it is. And we make that determination if it's worth it, because companies will always charge what people are willing to pay.
Right.
It's greed.
Yeah.
But it just goes with Bitcoin, because the thing that I hear a lot about Bitcoin is, what is it based on? It has no value. What is value? I mean, if we take a look at gold, it's just a a piece of metal that we found and decided we
That's
anointed it.
What is value? That's the thing, man. Like, it's crazy. Like I said, I could give you a piece of paper, and if you really want that piece of paper, then you give me something that I want, and that's how we value things.
Right, and more interestingly too is that, as we're talking about value, there is actual value with Bitcoin now, because if I'm a miner producing a Bitcoin, it could cost me anywhere up to $1,000 in energy costs and computing costs to actually manufacture that Bitcoin.
Oh wow!
But my return on investment is worth it because a Bitcoin is selling for $16,000 right now. You know what I mean? So there is actual value, but the value isn't something that's tangible, something you can carry. It's through effort and energy.
Right.
So that's partly what's reassuring about Bitcoin, is that the value now is in effort and energy. It's not just something tangible that we can pick up and say it's worth this much.
Right.
So you mentioned a few things to be on the lookout for as far as cryptocurrencies that could be scams, exchanges that can be hacked.
Yeah.
What are some other ways that people can protect themselves when they're dealing with Bitcoin?
What I would say is that do your homework on the exchange you use. Make sure that they're backed. Make sure that they have a strong user base. But more importantly, the moment that you exchange, save it into a hard wallet.
Okay.
Save it into a hard wallet. Keep it offline, because you don't want anybody to be able to hack into it. And leaving it on an exchange is very dangerous. But unfortunately, more people are doing that than not. Because it's so new. And back in the day when I would purchase something on Coinbase, it's nice to see your money inflate. You see that score, but the moment you pull it off an exchange and it's off there, you can still monitor the price, but just know that your coins are safe offline.
Right.
And that's the best thing I can do. That's the thing that I would like to stress is research Trezor, research any sort of hard wallet out there. And really look into buying one of those if you're going to be serious about investing cryptocurrency, because the last thing you want to do is earn a bunch of cryptocurrency, get lucky, make a lot of money, and then it's all just pulled out of there.
Right.
And you have no one to go to.
Now, I had a friend who had bought cryptocurrency and had it in a hard wallet, but whoever they were going through or whoever had helped them set it up had also took like a screenshot of their wallet or whatever it is that they use to verify that the actual cryptocurrency is there. Is that something that people should also be concerned about or to be protective of, as far as any sort of I guess, what is it? Isn't it like a passphrase or like a barcode or anything that's like associated with it?
Right.
So there are a couple different things you can do. Like, for example, a hard wallet, or certain exchanges and certain wallets allow you to create a QR code for your wallet, and then you can print that out on a piece of paper and then store it in a safety deposit box in the bank or something.
Okay.
And you can reconcile your coins that way. Obviously, I wouldn't want any record of my cryptocurrencies on anybody's computer or anybody else's. I don't want them to see anything, because you will always be target and always be vulnerable unless you directly control your wallet, and that's the route I would take.
Treat it the way you treat your social security number.
Exactly. Exactly.
Man, so I usually have a final question, but you gave us all kind of jewels just now, so I'm trying to figure out how to remix it.
Hey, and the thing is I'm learning more about it every day, just like you guys are. You know what I mean? Because these are new frontiers. This is something that hasn't been done before.
Right.
And it's kind of cool that we live in that generation that could potentially democratize wealth. You know what I mean? Like, bring it back.
Cool. So I think I got it. So for the person that was just listening and they're still kind of like, well, I don't really know, what would be the 3 key points to take away from this? What would you tell the first-time crypto investor?
First-time crypto investor, know that it's very volatile and very risky is number one. Always be willing to lose the money that you put in. It's not secure. These are untested waters. Don't go selling your car. Don't go taking out a loan. Don't go into debt to buy cryptocurrency. Because although on the surface it appears that you can make quick cash, and in very many cases you can, the risk is not worth the reward.
Right.
And only be willing to invest what you can stomach. Number 2, be smart about how you invest your cryptocurrency. Number 2 is how you secure your cryptocurrency, right? And number 3, do research on the cryptocurrency you are going to buy. try to understand as best as you can about the underlying technology. There are a lot of resources out there and a lot of videos you can watch and a lot of articles you can read. And try to see if you can understand yourself of these use cases in the future. Because I don't want to invest in anything I don't understand.
Yeah,
Right.
You know, so if it doesn't make sense to you, don't buy it.
For real?
And then go ahead, plug your company one more time, Snap.
Yeah,
Ledger.
snapledger.co. It's in its early stages right now. We got a good group of partners and a VC fund backing us right now. We are reaching out to, we're starting off local, we're reaching out to the bigger companies here in the Denver area to explore blockchain technology and application to see if it makes sense for their company to integrate or piggyback their existing product onto some sort of blockchain technology. We also have a lot of companies reaching out to us who have the blockchain technology but don't know how to market it to the masses. So we're also partnering with those companies to help them kind of word and market their individual ICOs and their technology to be understood better. But yeah, that's about all I got for you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to chop
Needed,
it up
man.
with
That
you
was
guys.
so necessary. Let's make some noise, my man. Justin.
Hey.
Cool. Knowledge. Life is Dope podcast. I'm Graffiti.
And I'm Davey.
Skirt.
We out.